Good afternoon, live from Houston, Texas. I'm here to share the red flags to avoid for employment based sponsorship. Okay, here in the United States. Welcome to Green Card Guys TV. I'm your host, John Ting, helping you solve your immigration problem or maybe even prevent it from happening in the first place, folks. All right, so the red flags, this kind of topic is very important to me because we receive many calls for a strategy session. Just point them in the right direction because they're usually in a problem type situation or a predicament where it could have been avoided in the first place. So one common example is the issue just simply with the job description. So that's why it's very important that the job description is accurate for the purpose of the government, Department of Labor, and ultimately USCIS. Because a lot of companies, with the HR, human resources, whether the company is like just got a couple people in it or could be a much larger company in general. And I don't want to say it this way, but maybe because immigration agencies are very strict, but more or less, we've noticed that job descriptions don't seem to have too much intentionality behind it. And yeah, I think maybe it could be just a government perspective, Department of Labor, because one word, essentially one phrase, one job description can alter the outcome of a case early on or even much later in the process. And much later, meaning it could be maybe 1 year later, 1.5 years later, and then receive an audit request from Department of Labor, or even before then, where the government may issue a prevailing wage determination, and they say, "Look, it's actually going to be much higher." They're gonna, let's say you and your attorney say that you think it's going to be wage level 2, which is there's 4 wage levels. Just based on a job, it's more. Let's say if I had to mention something like a junior associate position versus a senior level, of course, a senior level position is going to require have an issued much higher prevailing wage determination. I don't like to call it like a minimum wage, but it is the minimum, that in the sense that you have to pay, the company has to pay more than that amount. Okay, so and that's the first step, prevailing wage determination. And if for some reason the job description is not accurate to the extent that the job um, is actually being offered, because again, some companies, especially the smaller companies, small businesses, they internally they're thinking, okay, well, this is my preferred qualification. But in terms of the government, we don't actually want preferred qualification. So that's really, red flag number two. A mistake that you misconception is that want to be intentional in the job description, because you could end up having to pay a higher level when you did not intend that, or higher wages when you did not intend that to happen. Okay, so is the preferred qualification situation, because most people say, well, and the job description might say 5 years experience, but we always ask the HR or supervisor, is that what you really meant? Like, is that the bare minimum that you want? Because if you actually want 5 year experience, or just that by itself, then, and there's some kind of supervisor type capacity or managerial capacity, then it's going to increase the wage. So less experience required, less wage to minimum wage. Okay, lower minimum wage, not less. But so hopefully that gives you some kind of indication there. Number three, the third misconception or red flag. This is more like a misconception, is that most people think that the foreign national applicant has to work for the company that is sponsoring them. Now, this for EB employment-based residency green card process. No, that is not required. Even for H-1B, you don't have to be working for the company under H-1B. You don't have to have OPT to be working for that company beforehand to be registered every March. That's not required. Okay. But the start date is October 1st, typically, okay, by default. So that kind of give you an idea on that sense. So that was 1 through 3. Folks, by the way, we do offer preliminary discussion, mini strategy session to just point you in the right direction. Best way to do that is call that number right up there above, 720-740-4247. You can complete a quiz. Okay, go to that website above, freevisaquiz.com, or you can go to our website, greencardguys.com. And because if you're shy, whether you're the individual, foreign national, or you're a company, maybe you're not so shy, but you're just busy, right? Life happens. Go to our website, greencardguys.com, and just download. Go to our website all the way to the bottom. Okay, scroll down. There's guides related to investor visa. Basically, think about starting your own business, essentially, employers, and of course, suing for legal status. And you might not know this, but it's very important to consider suing the government, because we actually just had several consultations earlier with a person. They were approved for H-1B petition, step number 1, but step number 2 is the visa interview. And they already had the visa interview. They were asked to complete this silly form that they claim is for national security, for DS 5535. And you would think after you provide the form that they should issue the visa, right? The companies work, depending on having this person work for them in the United States, and vice versa. The employee is expecting to work for that company because they already have the petition approved. So that is the 4th thing you need to know, is that just because there's a delay does not mean you have to keep waiting. There is a possibility. This is not for everyone, but for most people, it is possible to consider, first of all, consider filing a lawsuit for mandamus. It is not just for family-based cases. It's also permissible for the employer-based cases, okay? So that kind of gives you an idea. Now, that's 4 things right there. There's a 5th thing I'd like to share, okay, is you want to be careful and complete all the steps in recruitment. Okay, this is the step, we call it step number 3. There's a lot of steps. There's at least 5 to 6 steps for employment-based green card cases. And the thing is, if you miss one of the steps for recruitment, it derails the entire case. So it's very important to know the difference. Number 1, is it a professional type job or is it non-professional? Okay. Very, very important, because some people might think it's a non-professional job, but then you don't complete additional recruitment steps. Okay. So, a misconception behind this recruitment in general is that most people think, well, what if someone applies to the job? And obviously, you're the foreign national that's getting this potential benefit. What if someone applies after they see the ad? It's okay. All right. It's still not a guarantee that you'll be, going, who knows? Maybe because the company posts the ad, transparency wise, reasonably, you might think, well, maybe they find someone that's more qualified in that sense. Right. But it's a required step with the government. Now, but the most part for our clients, no one applies. So the fact that they require a traditional print advertising, like literally the physical newspaper, that is just one of several methods required for recruitment. I don't know anyone that reads the newspaper, the physical newspaper. It's like on the phone and all that. The internet. I don't know anyone. Let me know in the comments if you're one of those people who read a newspaper. That'd be good to know. But I would have thought by now the Department of Labor would have changed this process, but maybe they won't for a reason. But anyway, you don't. Most people don't receive applications, but on the employer side, if you do receive an application, number 1, just as you normally would with HR, first make sure if that person's at least meets the minimum qualification. And if they do, you go through your internal process to consider scheduling that person for interview. The thing you don't want to do is not schedule anyone for an interview if they meet your minimum qualification. Okay, because in the event that Department of Labor does send you an audit request and want the files, or at least your summary of what happened, how many people applied, how many out of that, how many people got interviewed, you have to give them the reason why, maybe that even if you did have an interview, why they didn't move forward to receive an offer, a job offer. Okay, so that's something to consider. They call that the chilling effect. They don't want, just because whether the immigrant foreign national applicant or not, they don't want to have a chilling effect to prevent other people from applying in the first place. Okay, so hopefully that all helps. That's 5 out of many red flags, misconceptions that we love to share, so that you have more knowledge, because more knowledge is power, so you can make the best informed, educated decision for yourself as a company, and also for the individual foreign national. Okay, folks. Let me see if I have any questions here. So we're going to drop off from LinkedIn, okay? And then we'll see y'all on LinkedIn in a bit. Next week, every Wednesday. Okay, looks like that worked. All right, so for those folks who are on YouTube, Facebook, I see some comments. Let's see here. Omar, I think you asked this question the other day. You need to know how long Ankara, Turkey interview takes. How many days you've been waiting for it for almost 6 months? I don't know if that means you're waiting for the actual interview or you're waiting for the visa. But yeah, you first want to make sure if you're documentary qualified. Okay, that means assuming this is a family-based case, you want to make sure that your sponsor has uploaded all the financial documents and also your criminal clearance record. Abroad, outside US, sometimes they call it like a police certificate, a police record. So hopefully that helps. All righty. Let's see. Any other questions here? But yeah, if you have more information, that will be helpful. Okay, so So yeah, if you're tuning in, thank you for joining. We do offer free 15-minute, no cost to you, mini consultation strategy session to see if we can point you in the right direction, maybe even solve your problem, or at least share any red flags like I did for employment-based cases. Most people don't want to wait, right? I mean, everyone doesn't want to wait. So in terms of the government case, immigration case. So even if you think, well, I don't think that, the case is taking that long. Now, look, of course, if you just filed your case yesterday, which someone just called and said we could file expedite request, I was just told this, but it really depends on the reason, But literally, if you just filed yesterday or like last month, 2 months ago, and you're asking me if you file a lawsuit, no, I don't recommend that. I highly recommend against that, but it depends on the scenario in general. Okay, so but what I recommend is trying to see if you're qualified for expedite request, whether your petition is still pending, or you just got the new case number for NVC, National Visa Center, and the foreign nationals abroad outside the United States. Okay, that is possible. We just got that granted expedite request on both sides, USCIS step number 1 and also for NVC, so that the person could get the interview. I think it was like 2 weeks later. So that's fresh. It's going to happen. I think the interview is next week, actually, in June, first week of June. So that's coming up soon for them. Very happy for them because they have a newborn. I think it's the baby is about 2 or 3 months old. So all hands on deck. If you have a kid, a baby, you know about this. So that is definitely one good reason. I mean, not just the baby alone is a reason for expedite request, but, for example, if there's any kind of birth complication, pregnancy concerns, things of that nature related to a newborn, additional medical checkup, where it could be, of course, beneficial to have your spouse, family member in the United States sooner. you might want to consider that. So we do have a free guide about that. I don't think it's on the website, so you do have to call in and ask for that expedite. We call it expedite request guide, and it'll point you in the right direction. You might not need our law firm, okay, and, for that. So that's one of the reasons we have the guides, these free guides. All right. So I do see you have a comment. Yeah, they are qualified. Okay, so this is for your family members. All right, so they are DQ'd. 6 months. I would say that's not long enough. Unfortunately, I wish we could sue the government, but I just feel bad. Maybe other lawyers would say they'll sue. We're happy to sue, but realistically, I don't believe it's considered unreasonable. That's what the law requires to make sure it's unreasonable. Let me see if I can find the visa statistics. All right, so let's see. You said Turkey. Okay, so share my screen. Okay, so you can see here the government does have a website that can check the how many visas are issued, but that's not necessarily helpful 100% because you might not. It's not going to tell you, oh, just because this number of visas have been issued, that okay, you're going to be on deck or your family's going to be on deck, ready to be interviewed in 1 to 2 months. I wish that were the case, but they're just not that accurate. Okay, so let me type in here. Let me see if I can make it larger for you. It's kind of small, but looks like they're not in Ankara, Turkey. They're just not interviewing that many people in general. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. But yeah, CR1. It doesn't sound like CR1 for you, but yeah, F1 or maybe F3 or F4. Probably F4. It sounds like, if I can infer correctly. But they only issued 17. This is for April, so now it's May. Bit late, right? They don't update that quickly, but usually there's a 1 or 2 month delay on this. You can clearly see that this is not. Seems like very accurate information, but it doesn't look like it's technologically advanced to that extent. Okay, that they can share very quickly. But you can see here, like brother or sister, they only had 17 issued. Okay, last in April. Oh, it's for your wife. Okay. It's for your wife. So that would be, are you a citizen? Or if you're a citizen, that'd be CR1. That is 15 visas issued. Either way, they don't have many. Okay. And then if you're a resident, oh, that's even worse. They only have one. Right? Sponsoring for spouse, only one. So now let me go to the prior month. Okay. Let's check that out. Check that out. Okay, for CR1 it's 14. So that's about the same. March 14 and April has CR1 15. All right, yeah. Okay, so yeah, you're a citizen. Okay. And then yeah, March, even if we went to okay, F4 for siblings, if it was just interesting, 34. But F2B only had 5, right? That was March. And then so they clearly don't prioritize people who are the sponsor is a resident. And just for fun, we'll go to February. Check that out. February and CR1 13. So again, still fairly accurate. Or I don't want to say called accurate, but fairly on point that the numbers seem consistent. But again, even if it's consistent, it's good information to have. Is it 100% useful to you? Probably not, but it is useful to know. Not so useful to know, like, oh, is your spouse going to be next? Not really. I don't see anything in that data can point you in that direction, but it can be definitely more helpful. Those data points can be helpful to sue the government, right? So like, yeah, if you look at other countries and then you can see like there's substantially more. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean like the government should have the same number of officers reviewing your case or having the interview, but it is pretty ridiculous if like many other consulates have 30 issued, right? And yours is only 13 to 15 on average the last 3 months, or at least February to January to March. So that kind of give you an idea. But yeah, they don't have the same number of visa officers at every consulate post or embassy post. But at the same time, 6 months waiting on after being DQ'd. I would probably wait, Omar. I'd probably wait at least another couple months and touch base with us. But if you don't have an attorney, it's still important to talk to one, at least to make sure that you uploaded everything. Sounds like you did, because you said you got qualified, documentary qualified. So that's probably not an issue. But in terms of getting ready, some tips that we share, Omar, for our clients is, even though it's not interview yet or not scheduled for interview, you want to make sure you get the medical clinic information sooner than later, so you can go ahead and know how much they charge for the exam. And you can't schedule it yet until after you get the interview date. But I think more information, again, knowledge is power. So it's good to get things, ready to go in that sense. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Let's see here. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. I do need to run to our next meeting. So until next time, give us a call or go to our website. All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.